Hey everyone, and welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons for another lead guitar tutorial. In today's session, we'll be expanding our knowledge of blues lead guitar as we learn how to implement chord shapes and harmonies into our guitar licks. We're going to begin by learning some very useful shapes, and then we'll review the major and minor pentatonic scales so we know where all these licks are coming from. From there, I'm going to show you some licks that you can utilize over an entire 12-bar blues. This is also an opportunity for me to introduce to you my new amplifier, which is a 1971 Fender Princeton, and I'll be pairing that with a Ibanez Tube Screamer. Fantastic combination. I got all the tabs available for you at patreon.com/swiftlessons, where if you support the channel for just $1 a month, you can gain access for tabs and other resources for all of my popular YouTube guitar lessons. Now, let's get started with your lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, getting started with section 1 of this lesson, we're going to review a few common chord shapes that you can use for a 1-4-5 progression in the key of C, a 12-bar blues. So the first shape that I'm going to show you is called C13. So this chord contains a lot of the harmonies that I tend to go for when I'm throwing licks together with double stop techniques. So this is the C13, we bar the 8th fret, then the ring finger is going to play the 10th fret of the A string, middle finger on the 9th fret of the G string, and the pinky here on the B string 10th fret. That's called C13 because it's a C7 chord that has the 13th note of the scale. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Way up there in the second octave. C13. Now, there's another way that I might play C in kind of a jazz, kind of blues kind of setting. And that is playing a C9 chord. So to play that, we're going to play this in a very interesting kind of inverted way. Alright. So, the pointer finger goes to the 7th fret of the A string, ring finger to the 8th fret of the D string, middle finger, 7th fret of the G string, and the pinky on the 8th fret of the B string. The fingers are in kind of like a zigzag configuration. Alright. Now a lot of people might recognize this as being a diminished shape, but if you put the root in the bass, the 8th fret of the low E string, and you can play that with your thumb, you have the chord C9. Okay, but a lot of times people leave the root out and just kind of slide up into that chord. It's a really nice little bluesy chord shape. Okay, now let's get to the 4 chord. The 4 chord sounds great if you can play it as a 9 chord as well. Alright, but we're going to have a different shape for this. This is F9. Middle finger on the 8th fret of the A string, pointer finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and the ring finger is draped across the G, B, and high E strings on the 8th fret. Okay, and you can also use this shape to create G9, the 5 chord in a blues. Now what you've actually just learned is how to play a blues chord progression in every single key. You can just move this fret to fret. Okay, so, quick little recap. We have the C13, or C9. We have the F9 chord, and we have the G9. And these chord shapes, again, they represent the different harmonies that I may reach for when I'm trying to fatten up some of my licks. Okay, now we're on to section number 2, just a couple more prerequisites before we get to our licks. Now we're going to learn the major and the minor pentatonic scales. So the major pentatonic scale is going to sound like this. Okay, that is 8-10, 7-10, 7-10, 7-9, 8-10, 8-10. Fantastic scale for getting that major sound. All right, then the minor pentatonic scale. We're going to be mixing these together. The minor will sound like this. I'm sure that's one that all of you know by now, but just to be on the safe side, that is 8-11, 8-10, 8-10, 8-10, 8-11, 8-11. These two scales sound fantastic when you mix them together. Okay, great. Now we're moving on to section number 3, bluesy licks with chords and double stops. We're going to be taking those chord shapes, we're going to be taking those scales, mixing them all together to create some very fat sounding licks. Lick number 1 is going to sound like this over C, the 1 chord in this key. Alright, that's classic blues right there. It's really good when you're trying to kind of lay low, maybe play something behind a vocalist. 1 and 2 end. It's a little piece of that 9 chord that I showed you earlier. Alright, so I take my thumb, put it on 8-8 on the low E string. Then I'm going to take the D string, 8th fret, 7th fret G string, 8th fret of the B string, slide it up a whole step, and then bring it on back. Okay, so we're using basically both of those chord shapes that I showed you before, just a kind of little chunk of them. Okay, now moving on to lick number 2, it sounds like this. Now real slow. Okay, mostly major pentatonic here. Pinky goes to the 10th fret of the A string. Then we have the 7th fret D. Pinky reaches to the 10th fret of the D string now. Now it's double stop time. The pointer finger bars the 8th fret of the G and the B string as the middle finger hammers up a half step on the G string 9th fret. Grab the D string 10th fret, then flatten the finger across the G and the B string. Then you're going to do that nice little double stop hammer on again, 8, hammering up to 9. You put all that together, we have. Alright, put licks number 1 and 2 together, we have. Over C major. Okay, now we're moving on to lick number 3. This one's going to sound like this. Descending right down into that beautiful C9 chord. Okay, so for this lick, I'm going to break it up into 2 different sections for easier learning. The first half is going to sound like this. One more time. Okay, that was 8-10 on the B. Hitting the root, 8th fret high E string. Then it's double stop time, 10th fret B, 11th fret high E. And then bringing it up a half step. I love that little move. Then 8-8 high E string and B string. Alright, now you're ready for the second half of that lick. Alright, very easy. We're going 10th fret of the G string. Then we're going to bar 8 and 8, G and B. And do that nice little hammer on that we did before. Hammering the G string 8th fret to the 9th fret, making sure my middle finger is bent as I hammer so that I don't block the B string from ringing out. Okay, so we have D string 10, A string 10, then we're going to the 8th fret of the A string. Alright, major pentatonic. Now I'm on the 7th fret of the A string as I piece together the rest of that 9 chord, that C9 chord shape. If you put all that together, we have. Alright, beautiful. From there I might mess around, just kind of descend down a half step, maybe even go up a half step. This chord is very fun, just to kind of move back and forth in half steps. Okay, great everybody. So far you've learned 3 very professional licks, and it's enough to cover the first 4 bars, or 16 beats of that 12-bar blues, the entire duration of that C chord, the 1 chord. Let's put those 3 licks together in time. It's going to sound like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Alright, now we're going to move on to the 4 chord. Okay, now what we're going to do with the 4 chord is very similar to what we originally did to the 1 chord, C. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, a lot of you can probably get that just by looking. I'm tapping the root of the F9 chord. 1 N. Then I'm going to take that bar, 8th fret of the G, B, and high E string. Slide it up a whole step. Then I'm going to put it back exactly where we started, back on the 8th fret. Alright, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Alright, now if you want to reuse that lick number 3 again, that can get you back to the 1 chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Alright, now we're back on 1. It's at this point in the progression that the 5 chord would come in. And that's going to bring us to lick number 5. Same exact lick that we used over the F chord, but it's up a whole step. Alright, then we can repeat lick number 4. And now we're at the end of the progression. And that means it's time for me to show you another very professional turnaround that you can use that's also going to use some of the harmonies that we've been talking about. Alright, so turnaround. Oftentimes I like to start this off with the root. I'll hit the 8th fret of the low E string with the thumb. Then I'm going to grab the 8th frets of the D string, B string, and the high E string. Using my hybrid picking here. Alright, then I'm going to drop that D string down a half step. I got 7th fret, 6th fret, 5th fret. So far you have. Then we're just going to take those 9 chords and bring them up to the 5 chord. So F9, F sharp 9, and G9 ends the progression just about. We still need to resolve. So we're going to go back to that C13 chord. Alright, let's put everything together, all of those licks, into one 12-bar blues. Getting started with lick number 1. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Resolve. Alright everyone, thanks so much for checking out this lead guitar lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much to my supporters at patreon.com/SwiftLessons. I hope you're enjoying all the extra resources. I got many more videos coming up, so keep checking back. Please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.